Hello and welcome to the show. I'm JJ Flazanes, your host. Thank you for downloading today's episode. Today's episode is a little bit different. I took over the host position on Michael Neeley's Consciously Speaking podcast, and I interviewed him and on the work he is doing in the world to help elevate those of us that are doing great work in the world with our gifts and talents and wanting to raise the frequency of the planet and to help everyone be in alignment and to live from their heart. And so it was really fun to be on his show and to be the host. I didn't prepare at all, but because I have such a strong relationship with him and have worked with him for years, it was really easy to do. So I hope you enjoy me taking on that role. And I'm sharing it with you because for a couple of reasons, me as a podcaster and Michael, we can reach a lot of people with what it is that we're doing. And while I know that I get emails from you guys about just the work on this show that helps to change your lives, we really can't make the biggest difference possible without the help of you. Not only from you listening to the show and downloading it and sharing it with others, but really encouraging more of you to use your gifts and talents on the planet at this time and wanting to support you in elevating yourself to that level, to be in alignment, to be abundant, to be sharing your gifts, to be in your creative flow and getting rewarded for that and helping others. We have to be able to spread the word in many ways, and we need more and more people on the team, so to speak, as a light worker and a trailblazer and an inspirer, a motivator. And a lot of you out there either are wanting to be entrepreneurs or you have a side hustle you want to get going a little bit more. And I'm starting to do that. In fact, I'm launching a program in January, but we're doing it also at the end of this year. And if I'm not the right person for you to help you build that business and to help you utilize your gifts and talents to make a bigger impact than you're currently doing, then I want you to work with someone like Michael. We want to teach collaboration, not competition. We want to teach abundance, not scarcity. And so I am happy to share his work with you if I'm not the right person for you. And I want to encourage all of you to think about how you're making a big impact on the planet. And not because you have to, I'm not trying to shame you, but do you have some gifts and talents that you'd love to share? How can you be a presence in the world besides, of course, being in alignment with who you really are? Because when you're in alignment, you do spread that energetic field all over the place. But is it time to take that to the next level? Is it time to make a business out of it? Is it time to share your gifts and talents to affect others' lives? And if it is, today's show is for you. And if it's not, but possibly it might be in the future, then just listen and plant the seed now. I'm not going anywhere. Michael's not going anywhere. And we just want to help make the biggest difference possible. So I hope you enjoy today's show.
Hello, Conscious Explorers. Welcome to your sweet spot for mindful awareness and waking up. I am your host, Michael Neeley, and today I'm actually going to relinquish my host position to my dear friend, JJ Flazanes. We're going to flip the tables. JJ is going to interview me today as we talk a little bit about getting your conscious message out to the world, how to do that effectively, why you should do that, and so on. So without further ado, take it away, JJ.
Well, hello, everyone, and I'm glad to be here. Thank you, Michael, for relinquishing the host position on Consciously Speaking. Does that mean I get to put my name on the byline?
Absolutely. And as a matter of fact, I think you should also tell everybody all of the shows that you do. I mean, I would not relinquish this position to just anybody. It needs to be somebody who's obviously got the chops for it, and you do.
Well, thank you very much. Those of you who've been listening to Consciously Speaking for a while, you have heard me before. I have what was originally the Fit to Love podcast. Fit to Love then was 6 days a week and got broken up into 6 different shows. And the most popular of the 6 from the Fit to Love original 6 days a week is called Spirit, Purpose, and Energy. And that show is doing very well. I also have a show called Women, Men, and Relationships. And Michael has been on both of those many times. And also have a show called Nutrition and Alternative Medicine. And the Fit to Love podcast is still up and alive, and all 4 of those channels are audio only. I also do video shows that end up on my YouTube site, but I have a video podcast called Smart Exercise and another video podcast called Easy Paleo Gluten and Dairy Free Cooking. So yeah, I'm kind of all over the place. Meaning all over the place, I'm giving you lots of content in different areas. I'm quite focused, but I'm giving you lots of stuff that needs to be divided into their appropriate categories so that you know what you're getting and you are getting what you're looking for. So those are the shows that I have, and it's an honor to take over the host position here on Consciously Speaking, because Michael is doing a service in the world that I think he's being underappreciated for, if I could say that. So I'd like you all to recognize how long Michael's been committed to Consciously Speaking. And I just got done doing my own webinar last night, and I wanted to remind people that when you're doing something conscious, when you're doing something based in self-improvement in some way, but it's attached to, again, really getting to know who you are, how you operate, and improving yourself, you're actually doing a service to the planet. Michael and I run a group called Hive. And while we're also trying to raise the frequency of the planet by gathering people live and not live, but to raise their frequencies at least a couple times a month, even just this show and so subscribing to the show and listening to Michael and his guests is really also contributing to raising the frequency of the planet. So, Michael, I want to thank you for being a light bearer in the world and for all the work that you've been doing, both with your podcast as well as with your events, which we're going to talk about today, and with just who you are and how you show up in the world. I think you're a great example, especially for men, and you're definitely a beacon of light for women. So thank you so much.
Thank you, JJ. I so appreciate the way you put that. That's so much better than any bio I could have written for myself. So thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
You're welcome. So let's talk about the consciousness. Let's talk about the evolution of you, because one of the things that I know for me in my expansion with taking spirit, purpose, and energy and creating it into what it is today and how that all happened, we're all growing and expanding. And the point of what we do, both Michael and I, is to help everyone keep up with themselves, so to speak, and to give you the tools to continue to expand to the next level and to the next level. And there's not an end, by the way, so there's no one's ever done, but we can always enhance our experience, improve our ability to manifest things, improve our relationships, and really show up in the world in a positive and strong way. And so Consciously Speaking does that. But I know throughout the years, you've been called to take that message into really directly into people's businesses, into really looking at what it is that they're good at and being able to use their gifts in the world to help themselves and others, which is what has happened through you putting on your events, your Authority Blueprint. Yeah. So why don't you tell us about that evolution from Consciously Speaking to your Authority Blueprint Live?
Yeah. Thanks for positioning that question that way, JJ, because it is kind of an evolutionary process. And what happened with me, the whole reason I started Consciously Speaking was to help wake people up, to introduce people to concepts and ideas that maybe they weren't aware of that might spark something in them to bring more mindfulness and consciousness into their daily lives. And so I've really strived to bring a variety of walks of conscious life, new agey type of material into the show. And as that was evolving in its own process, I noticed that for myself, I started getting invited to speak at other places. I did a virtual summit to help really grow my tribe and really start to build upon that. And then, of course, getting my book out there, The Art of Forgetting. And people were asking me, what did I do? How did I make this happen so rapidly? In that same moment, though, it also occurred to me, oh, wait a minute, I can only do so much. Like this show is only going to reach a certain number of people. And at some point, maybe not for a while, it's going to hit a saturation level. And that's going to be fine. But if I really want to wake up the planet, how about I help other people to get their message out to the world, help them put that spark out into the planet, and therefore it creates lots of little ripple effects out into the world. And so I started teaching and training other people to get their message out there, to launch a podcast, do virtual summits, book speaking engagements, or even do their own events and get their books published. And all of that is really just growing upon my initial concept of waking up the planet. Now I help other people to do it on another level, and it just keeps expanding. And part of why I do my live event is to introduce people to the potential for how to make that happen.
One of the best quotes or, let's say, ideas that you shared on my show years ago when you first started your live events was about finding your authority, right? We talked about how someone basically looks for either a mentor or someone to lead them down the path of uncovering and helping them to figure out what it is that they are naturally good at and can bring out into the world, their gifts and talents, and make money from it and serve the planet. And one of the things that I really loved is one of the things you said is you don't have to be an expert 10 steps ahead of somebody. You have to be a couple steps ahead of somebody. In fact, that is usually ideal because then the person feels like it's all very possible. And I think that's one of the things that you bring to the table with your podcast community and with podcasters in general, to really take all the things that you have learned, done, and succeeded with and turn around and teach it. And like you said, help enroll more people to do the same so that we all can be light bearers on the planet and make a difference and empower people to make money and change lives. So I really appreciated that because it stuck with me, because I think people need to be reminded of that on a regular basis, because we so often default to discrediting ourselves and saying, well, I'm not an expert in that. And I'm an example of that as well. I have literally taken on a role of being a leader or an expert in law of attraction, but I don't claim that because, I mean, like, where am I going to get a degree for that? Who's going to give me a stamp of approval saying I'm an expert in law of attraction? But when you can get 40 people to show up from all over the country into a room who listen to your podcast and say, no, you are an expert. And I'm like, oh, okay. So what I love about what you're doing is you're reaching into every person, no matter where they are on the spectrum of being an entrepreneur or a business owner, and saying, you have a gift and let's find it. And it doesn't have to be that you're degreed or that you're multi-degreed or that you've already had success necessarily in that way. But we're going to find out where you've had success and how you can teach people who are a couple steps behind you to be where you are. So talk about the format of what it is your Authority Blueprint Live offers people, and like, why would someone who's listening to this right now seriously consider it?
Yeah. Well, it's a great question because there's really two angles that I approach your Authority Blueprint Live from. One is what I call the information, the content, and that's what people are going to come to the event and learn, which is, by the way, a lot. I've had it said at my event that it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose. I'm trying to provide you with lots of knowledge and information about the 4 pillars of authority, which are podcasting, virtual summits, speaking from stage, and getting published, and then how to interweave those. So that's the information content that you're going to get. But beyond that, there's this other piece that kind of alludes to what you were just talking about, JJ, and that is the mental blocks. I also devote some time at the event to help people get past that perfectionist that may be in them, or that imposter syndrome, which, like you said, is we think we have to be an expert. And if we're not, we're like, well, who am I to do this? And I help people to get beyond that because, quite frankly, you don't have to be 10 steps ahead. And the whole way this really occurred to me was that at my son's grade school, they assign first graders with third grade buddies. And that third grader just knows enough more than the first grader to make it interesting and still accessible for the first grader to learn these other little things about social life and being in school. And so it's similar in our world. Like you said, we don't have to know a whole lot more, but we do have to get out of our own way. We have to let go of perfectionism. We have to let go of thinking the imposter syndrome. Who are we to do this? We really block ourselves more than anything. And there's a whole new exercise I don't want to talk about today. It's a secret. You don't even know about this one yet, but I'm going to bring it into play, which is not quite hypnosis, but it is kind of an exercise we're going to do almost like in self-hypnosis so that we can get out of our own way and really get our message out to the world. And so there's that element at the live event too, which is a lot of fun. And of course, I bring in a lot of great podcaster friends like yourself. You'll be there at my next upcoming event too. And we have these miniature recording booths there so people can see, oh, podcasting really is pretty simple. There's not a whole lot to it. And you'll get an opportunity to get in and play in these recording booths, maybe book yourself some interviews in some of these other podcasts and really get a feel for it, because that is the first thing that we want everybody to lead with, is getting your own show.
And from experience, you and I have had success in both business and in personal life through having a show.
Yeah.
And all the doors that it has opened for us, for sure. And I'd agree with you that it can be a very low cost entry and not a big deal. And, depending on your standards too, of also sound quality. I mean, some people even record from their car on their iPhone, and I'm not a fan of that, but hey, to each his own. The personality is really going to trump sometimes the quality. If you love the person, then it doesn't really matter. So let's take, so from the podcast, and yours, of course, your first podcast was Consciously Speaking. And since then you've started 2 other shows, another one where I'm now officially one of the co-hosts. So, which is really fun. And then, okay, so after the podcast, then let's talk more about what sort of the next step is. Like, what if somebody is listening to this right now and they know that they are a conscious being who wants to make a bigger difference? And again, possibly they've got a little bit of fear, which again, by the way, everyone, coming to the event is the first way to get out of that fear. I just did my own, like I said, live webinar last night and offered people a chance to come to one of my live events. And I'll tell you that in order for you to make change and really get out of your comfort zone, you have to get out of your comfort zone. and the easiest way to do that is to go somewhere different and be in a room with different people. It's a very simple idea, but for some reason we get blocked on that. Yet it makes such a profound change when you are around people doing things and inspiring you. And then you get to see, oh, if they did it, I can do it. And it just sparks a new passion of being on purpose for you and to really use your passions. And again, being conscious. So let's say somebody's on here and they're like, okay, I may want to show, I may not want to show. What else are you going to cover in the event for those who want to know more about how they can show up in the world in a more impactful and financially abundant way?
Yeah. Well, that's actually a very interesting question, because some people, if they were to look at the 4 pillars of authority, which again, I'll reiterate them, they're podcasting, virtual summits, speaking from stage, and getting published. And someone might come and say, oh, well, I've already got a book, or I've already got a podcast, or I'm already doing some of that stuff. This event goes well beyond that, because it teaches how to interweave them and elevate the individual items. So I look at it like this. Each of those items individually is a wonderful tool to have. If you've got a book out, great. If you've already got a podcast, great. But if you're just using them as individual tools, it would be like, okay, here I've got a wheel over here, and here I've got a chair, and here I've got a door, and here I've got a windshield. And wow, aren't those cool? But unless you put them together properly to create a machine, or in this case, a vehicle that can transport you to where you want to go, you've still just got a bunch of parts. And that's what most people do, quite honestly, is they build parts, but they don't put them together to make an effective machine. And that's what I teach. That's the magic sauce. And that's what the Authority Blueprint is about, is how do you create those in a way that, one, makes it easy to transition from one to the next, so that you're not working harder, you're actually working less and keeping things easier. And then how do you make them play together so well that it gives them exponential power? And we're going to go over all of those elements. We're going to dig deep into each one. Now, obviously, in a 3-day event, I can't go super deep. I mean, there are times I actually teach a few times a year podcast launch retreats. And that's 3 days of just intensive podcasting. And then I do a 3-day retreat on virtual summits, all 3 days focused on that. However, at the event, we're going to dive into enough so that you learn how you can get each of those elements going and how to interweave them. And you'll walk away with your own blueprint. And even if you've got some of those things, you'll now have the magic to infuse between them to actually make them more powerful.
So I'm looking forward to the next event. And why don't we talk about a little bit of like where it is and the date and
Yeah, because you're going to be there. I'm so excited. I wish Doug was going to be there too, but sadly it doesn't look like that's going to happen. But you guys have been at my last 2 Your Authority Blueprint Lives, which is always so exciting to have you there. And it's going to be happening in Capitola, California, which is, I always joke like this, it's a suburb of Santa Cruz. Santa Cruz is kind of too small to really have a suburb, but they're cities that you can't tell when you've gone from one to the other, really. But Capitola, it's going to be on 41st Avenue at the Fairfield Inn and Suites, Marriott Fairfield Inn and Suites. And it's going to be happening October 21, 22, 23. Now, here's the deal. That's a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And if you're in a desk type of a job, you're working in a cubicle or you're working somewhere else, I apologize, but please try to get the days off to come and make it for this. My goal in doing it as a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday event is to keep your weekends free for your family. Now, if you do come out and show up Sunday evening, we'll have a meet and greet party for those who are early arrivals, because we will be starting bright and early on Monday. And we start every morning at 9. We wrap at about 6. And on the third day, on Wednesday, we'll try to wrap up around 5 so that people can start their trek home. It's just really going to be an amazing event. Like I said, JJ's going to be there. Some other great podcasters are going to be there. So you'll get some real hands-on experience with people who know the ropes. And you'll learn a ton. It's also a lot of fun. There are other great visionary solopreneurs that are going to be there sharing information with you. So that's always cool. And then I want to make a special offer for anybody who's tuning into this particular episode that you can go to the link, which we'll put in the show notes, and you can get a special discounted ticket. So please look for the link and the coupon code in the show notes so that you can take advantage of that, because I want to discount an opportunity for you to be there.
So for those of you that are working desk jobs, definitely take the vacation time off. Here's why. Especially those of you that are unhappy in your desk jobs.
Yeah.
If you are unhappy at your work and you know that you're being called to do something different, something more, but you don't know how, you're not going to find it at your desk job. So we have to put ourselves in a situation where, especially at an event like Michael's, so not only is Michael going to teach you his 4 pillars of authority, and like he said, there's other solopreneurs that are going to be there. I'm going to be there. And one of the things that the benefits of it just being in a room full of other entrepreneurs or other business owners or people who want to be business owners, the consciousness that changes when we all get together, ideas just start flowing. I know I can, at every one of your events and at other events, not all events, but definitely your events, when I'm just listening to people talk, and it could be as an attendee asking a question. I'm literally getting downloads the entire time. I'm writing notes. I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to do this and I have to do this. And not that it's an overwhelming, it's just all these great creative ideas because you're in the creative space. If you're someone who struggles with depression or anxiety because of your work situation or because of your job, or you're not feeling like you're giving your gifts and you know that you're like repressing that energy, your creative energy is your life force. And so I want you to look at this as an opportunity to access that creative life force within you and to let it out and to really give yourself the chance to explore what your gifts and talents are and how you can package that in a way that is helpful to everyone as well as prosperous for you. So really, there are several levels to an event, and not all of them, but an event like Michael's, because it is conscious and because it is structured the way that it is, will allow you to, again, not only learn from the information he's going to provide, the exercises we're going to do together, learn from people like me and other podcasters who might be there, experience being in the booth and being on an interview and going through that motion. But it's also literally just soaking up all of the creative energy in the room and getting your own ideas and inspirations that I promise you, you're not going to get sitting at your desk or at home or even with somebody else, because it's the power of the collective consciousness that really stimulates that channel to open up and for you to get new downloads and new ideas in ways that you've never thought of before. So look at it as a way to be able to bring that also.
Yeah, and I want to add something to that as well, JJ, and thank you for making those distinctions. But the other thing I want to add is, well, 2 things really. One is I do make my event very conscious. It's not a lot of fluff. It is very real and transparent. I actually show people behind the curtain so you know fully what's going on and how the event is set up and all of the details of it. So it's actually very much a learning experience, even just the unwrapping of how the event works itself. So if you're ever thinking of doing events, there's definitely value in that too. But the other piece that I wanted to say, I was chatting with one of my clients yesterday and we were talking about the event, and he was wondering from me, he's like, well, what's the promise of the event? Like, what can you guarantee people that they're going to learn? And this made me think about something that's important to me in this realm of consciousness. There are so many marketers out there that will lead with marketing statements like, do this and you will make $100,000 more. They promise these numbers. They're guaranteeing certain results. And quite frankly, I can't do that. And my client was asking, well, why can't you say that? And I said, because here's the deal. I can tell you one great secret that you can take away from the event, that you will learn something, but I can't guarantee what you'll do with that. That's totally up to you. And I can tell you that people have taken stuff that I've taught them and gone on to make 6 figures with that real quickly, but that doesn't mean everybody will. because it's totally up to that person's demeanor, what they're doing in the back end to tell somebody that they're going to be able to make a lot of money. Well, what if that person doesn't even have something to sell? So I can't make any type of guarantee like that. And so as we were discussing this further, I was thinking about, well, what can I guarantee? And so I kind of boiled it down to this. Even if someone knows a lot about this industry, if you know about podcasting or if you know about other things like that, I can guarantee you that if you come to the event, that you will learn at least 2 ways to monetize your podcast that you probably hadn't thought of before, even if you are a podcaster. So that I can guarantee. You'll learn 2 new things. What you do with them is totally up to you. I know a lot of people who turn around and make really good money using those methods. The other thing I can guarantee is that you'll walk away with at least 3 ideas on how to improve your authority that you hadn't thought of before. I mean, it's one of the things that people have said and given testimonials about my event is like, I never realized this stuff. I'm telling you, I'm going to give you this slant on things that you have never looked at it this way before. And that's what makes the huge difference. But what you do with that is totally up to you. And if you have a good business going on, or if you're thinking, if you've got a great idea that you want to take out to the world and monetize, and by the way, while I'm all for you putting out a conscious message in the world, that's job number 1, I still think you need to find a way to make money from it. It's like the expression, you can't shine your light in the world if you can't pay your electric bill. So you need to be able to do that too. And so that's part of what we'll talk about at the event as well, is to allow you to get your message out there to the world in a big way. You're a heart-centered entrepreneur. You're a conscious person who has something to share, and you deserve to be compensated for it so that you can share it in a bigger way. So those are some of the other elements that were coming to me, JJ, as you were talking about that.
Well, there are left brainers and the right brainers. And left brainers are the ones that love structure. They love the 4 pillars. They feel confident in getting that information, and they're going to take action because they are linear thinkers, and that's what they're going to do. And then there's the right brainers who love the concept, but maybe the structure scares them. And maybe they're that, a lot of conscious woo-woo type people, not necessarily you and I, but there are a whole lot of people who love the ideas of all these things, but they have a problem with actually taking action. And if that is you, and you're listening to this, and you have the strong feelings of desire for change in the world, and you'd like to be a part of it, and you'd like to also have that energetic exchange of being compensated for your gifts and talents, but yet, you're still stuck in the same thing doing over and over again. What a definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results.
Yeah.
So if that is you, the first step to breaking that pattern is to come to the event and create some structure for yourself. And that would be the way to move the needle on that, because you know what, we can only talk about it and pray about it and meditate about it for so long. That is helpful. But if you're not taking the inspired action that comes out of the meditation, then we're sort of squandering the energy here. Yeah. Or squandering the gifts if that's the case. So just remember when you're thinking about how do I break this pattern? How do I get out of that and move to the next level? Well, you need help. We all do. We all need that accountability. We all need the new ideas. We all need that support energetically, and then the light bearer to show us the way and to hold our hand sometimes through the hardest parts. And that's normally what gets us slowed down. So I invite you to really consider if you're that person who's, oh, well, everything is, very flowy for you. But, again, let's be real. How's life? All right. Can you pay your bills? Because if you're the poor spiritual person, we're not making a difference on the planet right now. You have to be able you can't give to those that you have nothing to give. I mean, you might have energy to give, and that's great, but you can make a bigger impact when you have a bigger reach, and when you can be out there, again, shining your light in the way that I'm guessing you all want to do by listening to and subscribing to Consciously Speaking.
Yeah, and I want to, as you were saying that, some more ideas just occurred to me, JJ, and that is I like to, how would I put this, entice people to get off their butt. One of the things, and I actually did an episode on this not too long back, which was really a pretty popular episode about getting started. And the challenge with many of us in getting started is we're waiting for something to push us into action. And that's not going to happen. I suggest that you do this. Take that first step. Imagine you're standing at the starting line and you're waiting to hear the gun go off. Well, there's not going to be any gun going off to say start. You need to take that first step. And once you do, then everything pulls you forward. And part of the pulling you forward is what is out there? What can you create for yourself? What is a carrot that I can create? What is something that I can reward myself with, or that drives me so much that action becomes inevitable? So I like to toss out a bribe, an ethical bribe to people from time to time. And I want to do that right now. So anybody who signs up, I'm just going to throw it out there that hopefully this will be the impetus that gets you off your butt and gets you into action. I'm going to gift you a 1-hour coaching session with me if you go and purchase your ticket using the code. We'll use the code Michael for this one. Just use my name, all caps, the coupon code Michael when you go to check out. It's going to do two things. One, it's going to drop your ticket price to just $97. Okay, so it's normally, right now, the early bird price is $997 for a basic ticket. It's going to drop that down to $97. Okay, use the code Michael. It'll drop it to $97. And if you use that code Michael, it will flag it for me that I know that I'm also gifting you a 1-hour coaching session, which that alone is normally another $500. So you're getting a $997 ticket and a $500 one-on-one private coaching session for $97. The link will be in the show notes. Go to the link, or you can also find it at michaelneeley.com. But go to get your ticket and use the code Michael, all in caps, and take advantage of that deal, because I want you there. And I hope that that's enough of an enticement to get you off your butt and into action, because getting out of your comfort zone, that's where possibility lives. And that's where change is going to happen for you.
And, if you're the person that's listening to this and you love your desk job, you love what you're doing in the world, but you know other people who are miserable and who can't seem to push themselves forward, send them a note along with a link to this episode and tell them that, you think it's time for them to really give their gifts and to get out of their own way and to show up and be on purpose in their life in a new way that will make every part of their life better. So if you're the person who just, you're doing great. And this show, while we still would like you to come and do better at the event and come play with us and learn and grow and expand, but maybe a few people. I mean, I can think of a few people that I can send this to that I would love them to get in better alignment with their purpose and their gifts, because it would make them happier. It would improve their marriages. It would improve their health. Right? Because it trickles down. When you are not on purpose and disconnected from that, it causes repression, which causes depression and anxiety. And then that affects all your relationships. So again, just if it's not you, think about who you know. And if you can lovingly just, send them the episode along with a love note that you love and care about them and want to see them shining bright. And here, this might be of service to them to help them do that.
Excellent. Yeah, thank you for thinking of that, JJ. I appreciate it. And yes, please do invite anybody you feel like this would be a fit for, even if it's not for you. And even if it's not a fit for you, I guarantee you will have fun. My events are always fun. So please try to get there yourself and then share it with anybody who may be interested as well. And JJ, we've come to the end of our time together. I hate to go, but I've been so excited to have you do this with me, and it's great. And I'm going to get to see you in person here in another few days. And so I'm excited about that too.
Me too. And I look forward to all the wonderful, energies we create in the world, and for people to join us at the event, join us with Hive, join us on the show, and just start helping us all move the needle here, which is what we're all about. So I appreciate that you handed the mic over to me today to be the host of Consciously Speaking. I'm going to wear that proudly. And of course, I love you to death. So thanks so much.
Likewise.